Hi guys, this is Carlos from Tech. Today I'm going to show you how to set up your WordPress environment in your local host. For any system at all I develop with WordPress, I mostly deploy it on a local host server. And to do that, you need a running local host server. You can use WAMP server or the XAMPP. In this case, you are going to use the WAMP server. So to deploy the WAMP server, we'll go type WAMP server, and I have the WAMP server running over here. I run it and I check from my taskbar. This is the WAMP server, not yet ready, and it will soon be ready by turning up to green. So immediately it gets ready, you know your server is fully up online and running. Our server is now ready to go, and the next thing to do is to open your web browser. Let's try and search for what we are looking for. We want the WordPress environment. So to get that, we go to www. You can decide to search through Google or go to www.wordpress.org. .wordpress.org. And from here we can download our WordPress environment from here. So let's click on download WordPress, and these are the versions and some preambles of the system. So you can get a mobile version or you get a desktop version. For this purpose, we are getting the desktop version. After your download is ready, your WordPress 4.72 is ready. You double click to extract down to whichever directory you would like to. So in this case, we are going to extract to this very directory. So let's do that. And now that we have our extracted folder to this directory, let's double click in the folder, double click in the WordPress. These are all the files in the WordPress. Okay, so we are going to copy all these files. Okay, you highlight all and you copy. You go back to your local directory DC, go to your WAMP server, come to your www folder, and you create the environment name, your WordPress website environment name. Let's create our new folder as to the directory of our WordPress environment, and in this case we are going to name our new folder Tech. This is our new environment folder, and in this folder we are going to paste all the files copied from the WordPress. So we are pasting all over here. Now that we have all our 34 items ready in our folder, in our Tech environment folder, what you're going to do now is to go back to our WAMP server, come to your WAMP server, and you test your phpMyAdmin. Okay, we are now ready to go. So this is our phpMyAdmin environment. The first thing to do over here is to create a user. So we move down to these tabs and you come to user. You come to the users over here and you add a new user. And over here, let's say user as the username. And for the host, let's change that to a local host, because you are on a local host. And over here, let's use a password. I have my own password here. You should also choose your password. So over here, we have to be very careful over here. We need to grant all the privileges for this user. So what you do is you go to grant all the privileges without creating any database, because we would have to create a database manually ourselves. So you grant all the privileges and you check all the checkboxes there, and you go to go. Alright, so our user is successfully created. So we have it over here, user, localhost, and on the password, it has a password, all privileges, we have a go there, we have all the grants on this, and the edit privileges. So the next thing to do now is to go back to our databases. And in our databases, we are now going to create the database for the WordPress environment that we want to create. So now, over here, we still want to use the Edcartech environment as the database. Edcartech environment for our database, and we create the database. So we have Edcartech fully created over here with an empty database. Over here, we have this as an empty database. Now the next thing to do now is to go back to our browser and create a new tab over here and try to evoke the folder that we created earlier. So to do that, we go to localhost. We go to localhost and we evoke Edcartech folder, and we press enter. This is our first interface on the WordPress environment. And over here, we just have to select our language, our preferred language. We have a lot of languages over here listed. But then for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to create this environment using the English language United States. So you click on continue. Alright, so we are now down to where we need to do some little configuration. So over here, we are being told to specify the database name of the environment that we want to use. And don't forget, it's Edcartech. We specify the password that we created earlier on, and specify the username that we created earlier on. So we are going to go with the configuration. Alright, so for the database name that we had earlier on, that was Edcartech database. Now for the username, remember we used user. And for the password, let's remember your own password that you created. I also created mine as root. And the database host is still localhost, as we created the user earlier. And now we have the table prefix. So for every database table that we create, this prefix should be attached to our database. And in later sections, we are going to learn how to use the prefix. We submit all the configuration details that we have entered in over here. Now we have a successful message that is telling us to go ahead. We have alright, Sparky, we have made it through as the part of the installation. Now we want to run the installation itself. Alright, this is where we now create our first website with the localhost. So we have the site title, and let's give it any title at all, probably my first sites. Okay. So for your username, so for your first website, what username do you want to log in with? That is what they are asking you over here. So in this case, you might decide to present anything different from the user that we created earlier. But then in this case, I personally want to use Carlos. You could use anything. Now we have a very strong password over here, but then I don't think I'll be remembering all this. But it's very advisable to keep this password. You copy this password and save it somewhere. Anytime you're going to log into this very website, my first website, then you should use this password. But I want to create a more less secure password for myself so that I can easily remember that. So I'm saying Carlos as my password. So now you need to confirm the weak password that you have already created. We were given a strong password earlier, but I just wanted to use a very weak password so that I can easily remember that. It's not advisable to do that. Once again, it's not advisable to do that. So now I'm going to confirm this. So you need to provide your email for the purpose of the website that you are creating. So over here, I'm going to provide my email, carlos@gmail.com. That's my default email. And now over here, you discourage search engines from indexing the site. So far as we are creating this site on a local host, there's no need to even tick this. But this is mostly done by Google. So to discourage this, you can simply click on discourage. Meanwhile, we are not online, we are on a local host. There's no search engine optimization over here. So what we do over here is we install the WordPress environment. There we go, our WordPress environment is ready for us to use. So this is the front end of your login of your Edcartech system. Okay, so remember we use Carlos and the system picks that automatically. So we need to provide the password that we created for the second configuration. And in the second configuration, remember we use Carlos. Remember, this is the site configuration. What you did earlier on the database was the database configuration. Okay, so if you want to remember this, and I don't want to do that, so I have to log into my site. So this is the dashboard of your system. Okay, so this is your WordPress environment, what we needed to do earlier on. But then we need to view our site. To view your site, you just move to this directory and you click on view your site. You can press Ctrl on the keyboard to view your site on another tab. So this is the new site that you have just created. So we have it. So this is our first website environment that we created.